everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Business Basics. My name is Lee Iben and joining me today is Matt Zacek with Z's Catering and BBQ. Matt, welcome. How are you?
I'm great.
So,
Finally, a nice sunshiny day after the
right.
gloom of yesterday, right?
No kidding. No kidding. So tell me, Matt, you're in Iowa City. Do you have a storefront or is it 100% catering? What's the scoop?
We're a custom caterer company. We're actually in North Liberty, Iowa.
Oh, good.
I guess kind of what I mean by custom is we don't have a set menu. We kind of just work with customers, develop a menu that is what they have in mind for food, and of course be mindful of the budget.
Yep, that's very good. So based out of North Liberty,
Yep.
very cool. And so, tell me how you got into all this.
Well, I've been in business about 2 years. I spent 35 years in the wireless industry, in and around the wireless industry, and decided to take my love for food and cooking and see if we could make a business out of it.
And how's it going?
It's going good. It's
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2 years, so there are those rocky moments still,
Yes.
but every time we hit a rocky moment, we seem to hit something good that comes out of it. So.
Now you don't always put wireless technology and barbecue in the same category, right?
Right. My dad owned Nelson's Meats growing up, so I've always been that carnivore at heart. So
Yep.
barbecue is kind of a natural fit, but
Yep.
it isn't all we do. It's a very, I'd almost say a small portion of what we do, but it's my love, so I threw it into the name.
Well, I love that. And so you've been doing that for 2 years, catering primarily, but you also do
Yep.
something for students too. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've got a nonprofit side of the business called Worth Our Weight, where we work with students right now. Right before the pandemic, we had a really good program started with Big Brothers Big Sisters, bringing some of their kids in.
Hmm.
We've brought some kids in with hemophilia that came in and worked in the kitchen and kind of talked about safe ways to work in the kitchen there. And our goal is to kind of get a rhythm going with the school system where we can bring some kids in on a regular basis and teach them some cooking skills and either send them on to Kirkwood or get them into the industry somewhere in town.
Very good. So you got a kitchen there in North Liberty, right? That you can
Yes. Yep.
bring people. Okay.
Yep.
And you can help those kids. I think that's great, by the way, that you can show kids some skills that they may not be getting at home anymore, right?
Yep. And at school anymore, there's not a lot of vocational type stuff in the school system anymore. So we try and kind of fill that void a little bit. As well as I'm a Serve Safe instructor and proctor. So if they really want to get into the industry, we can get them really qualified and put some nice things on their resume to go out into the world.
So you were working on this while you were still in your wireless business. Is that correct?
I kind of got thrown into it. As happens in management, there was a change at the top, and I
Hmm.
was that change, and walked out of there and went. I've always wanted to do this, and the nonprofit side was what kind of fueled it.
Okay.
And I came home and I said, it's a time to start the nonprofit where we can focus 100% on it. And she said, yeah, but there needs to be a for-profit to go with that nonprofit. So that's
Yes.
how we got into catering.
I love that. So are you the sole proprietor then, or is your
Yep.
wife with you then, or how's that work?
She tries to keep at arm's length as much as possible, and she comes in and does the cleaning. She's not comfortable in front of the stove as much, but
Okay.
yeah, she comes in and reorganizes me when I'm getting messy and all those good kinds of things.
Very nice. So tell me, COVID impacted everybody. How did it impact your business?
We really had to do almost an overnight pivot. There
Mhm.
was, all of our weddings pretty much canceled at the same time that we had for the summer. Our two biggest corporate clients, Integrated DNA and Transamerica, basically went to home office and are still pretty much that way. No in-person meetings, that kind of
Right.
thing. So we really had to pivot. And actually, my wife and I were in St. Martin, and they basically announced, hey, we're closing the country, get out. And so on the plane on the way home and then in a hotel in Chicago, we came up with the idea of pivoting and going to a nightly meal. A menu we put out at the beginning of the week. We've got a set menu each night. It's been interrupted several times over the last few months with doing storm recovery and that kind of thing. But we've tried to keep it going, and the community support for it has been incredible.
That's great. And do you have a few employees, quite a few employees, just yourself? How's that work?
I tried to run just myself for the first year and a half, and then finally got to the point where I just had to bring somebody else in. I found a student at Kirkwood who came in and is now my sous chef, and basically helps to run the business. He during the storm cleanup stuff, he worked with me 17 hours a day for 13 days straight, just keeping the food pouring out, and he's been a great asset to the team, and really made me realize what my wife had been saying for a while of, you can't just do it all yourself, and you got to occasionally get some help. So he's with me.
Good. I have found it's good advice to listen to our wives, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hey, so that's great. So it's the two of you primarily, and who would you say is your, well, now post-COVID, well, we're still in COVID, but hopefully starting to open back up a little bit. Who's your primary market, your target market? Who would that be?
Our best, obviously, like I said, our best folks right now are those customers ordering the meals from us every night. Okay. But outside the pandemic, we do all kinds of catering and events. We've got great relationships with a number of companies around town, including, like I said, Integrated DNA and Transamerica.
Good.
But we'll do any size event from a small gathering up to a 300+ wedding.
Wow, that's great. I can't imagine what the planning must be like to organize food for 300 people.
We've done it a couple of times. Our biggest one was right at 300, all barbecue in Cedar Rapids last July in an under-conditioned kitchen. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, a lot of learning going on for sure.
Yes, I think I lost 10 pounds that week.
Well, there's a lot into that, right? I mean, for food prep, I mean, keeping it all hot is a challenge, right? And you got, I don't know, coleslaw, beans, fries, I don't know, whatever, and fresh buns.
And the different types of things and how they need to be prepared in advance or prepared like this last second and that kind of thing. Just keeping it all the balls in the air while you're juggling kind of thing.
Oh, for sure. And do you have like a big truck that you carry everything in, or a trailer?
We have a trailer. Actually, that was a recent purchase too. Now that there are, unfortunately, a lot of restaurant auctions going on, there's a lot of equipment out there available. And so we were able to pick up a trailer, which before that we were packing everything in my wife's Explorer and my car and anybody else's car that would come and help out.
Right.
So the trailer has been a great addition. We couldn't have made it through the last couple of weeks without it. So
yeah, that's great. And you said you were helping during storm damage. Were you going up to Cedar Rapids and helping out, or what were you doing?
Yes, we had a company that actually initially hired us to help feed their employees and families.
Okay.
And then we transitioned right out of that into working with the National Guard, and we fed those troops 2 meals a day, breakfast and dinner, the whole time they were here. So,
wow.
As well as we spent one day, there was a day slack in between the two programs, and we basically loaded the trailer up with every piece of extra food we could find laying around and hauled it up to Cedar Rapids and just started driving around neighborhoods handing it out.
Wow. And I bet the folks up there were just so appreciative.
Yes,
to have
it was
great. The amount of destruction up there is just overwhelming.
It really is. And even still, I drove up there yesterday or the day before, we drove through town, and it still is, it's totally changed.
Yeah, it really has. So tell me, 2 years in business for yourself. Now you got a lot of business experience with the 35 years in wireless, but really you're hitting the road, rubber hits the road for 2 years. What bit of advice do you have to somebody? I mean, you've been through a lot, right? COVID-19 for coming out. What kind of advice do you have for somebody who wants to maybe just branch out on their own like you did?
I'd say the biggest one, and this is actually my second business venture. I did some wireless stores a while back in 2008 when we had another crisis, but that's what we do. The biggest one is really take those startup costs that you think you have and the amount of time to build out and pretty much double it. That was the biggest shocker to me. Is it just seemed like every time I turned around, I was writing another check to somebody that I didn't expect, or a piece of equipment was a lot more than what I anticipated, or, you know, chiseling through 17 inches of concrete for 30 feet of drainage, you know, took 10 times longer than expected, kind of thing. So,
You know, that is so true, isn't it?
yeah. And the other one is, like we talked about earlier, just don't try and do it all yourself. I was trying to be the chef, the accountant, the cleaner, the, you know, the everything. And it got to the point it was killing me. And I've got a company that does some bookkeeping work for me, or at least keeps my QuickBooks as clean as possible.
Good.
And then bringing on Ryan, my sous chef, just has really improved, I guess, our product and our ability to do things like pivot and feed, you know, I think it was north of 4,000 meals, maybe 5,000 meals in Cedar Rapids between the guard, what we handed out, and the other projects. So,
oh yeah,
being able to, I mean, couldn't do that without him.
No, exactly right. And I think you've nailed it. The thing that most business owners don't realize is they want to conserve as much cash as possible when they start. They'll do as much as they can on their own shoulders without bringing on extra employees. But you nailed it. Well, you bring on just one other employee. Now, all of a sudden, you can set him off on do a task, and you can get back to entering those expenses, or, you know, trenching out a pipe.
You can manage the business at that point instead of just trying to do everything.
Right. I mean, just, it's overwhelming with the insurance costs. I mean, liability, all the other things you have to have. Setting up your website. If you're not a web guy, I mean, just learning the language, right? And developing that contact list, that email list of reaching out to people. It's overwhelming. It can be overwhelming.
Definitely is.
So tell me, what has been your daily inspiration?
Well, like I said before, my wife really has kind of inspired me, and there have been a lot of points over the 2 years, especially since March, when I've been at the point of saying, you know what, I think it's time to get the auction company in here and figure out something else to do. And she's always come up with another idea to keep it going, or another thing to do. Really, without her, we wouldn't have been able to pivot like we did. And because a lot of that was her inspiration, her ideas, her Facebook contacts, that kind of thing.
That's great.
And also, basically, the volunteers. When we were feeding the guard, obviously the state of Iowa doesn't exactly shell out a payment that covers the food, more than the food that we were preparing. And we were happy to do it, but we had volunteers just come in like crazy. Whole families, groups of the Boy Scouts, school groups, all pitched in to make it happen.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that is inspiring. Yeah. Well, Matt, what's my takeaway? Tell me one more thing about Z's I need to know.
I would say still we're going to keep the daily meal menu thing going. So make sure people check our Facebook page on a weekly basis. They can shoot me an email, and I'll put them on an email list for the menus as well. And any kind of event you're having, give us a shot. We'll definitely, if you can dream it up, we'll cook it. We say that all the time.
That's excellent. All right, don't go away, Matt. Hey, my name is Lee Iben. This has been an episode of Business Basics with Z's Catering and BBQ with Matt Zaczek. Matt, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.